President Joe Biden has announced an additional $1 billion of military aid to Ukraine. It's after the country's president called the US to do more to help its fight in Russia. Joining me live now is former US Intelligence Army officer Chuck DeVore. Chuck, thanks so much for your time. First of all, let's go to what is actually being supplied. We're talking about drones, we're talking about weapons. How much will this actually help in this urban warfare?
The main thing is that it helps the Ukrainians not run out of critical munitions. It's important to understand that modern warfare waged between two peer enemies, like we're seeing right now between Ukraine and Russia, consumes an enormous amount of weaponry and ammunition. So all this does is it keeps Ukraine in the fight. It helps them equal the odds and continue to attrit the Russian forces that invaded Ukraine some 3 weeks ago.
Yeah, 3 weeks ago, and everyone's surprised at how much they've been able to push Russia back, or at least keep them at bay until now. Why do you think that is?
Well, it's due to a number of reasons. 12 days before the invasion, I tweeted out remarking that the mud season, known locally as Rasputitsa, never ended from the fall. There was no hard freeze, and that would make it very difficult for the road-bound Russian mechanized infantry and tanks to really operate the way they should. We've also seen poor Russian tactical deployment and training. We've seen remarkable high morale and exceptional use of the terrain by Ukrainian troops. And as a result, the Russians were not able to achieve their objective in the first 24 to 48 hours, which was the ousting of the government of Volodymyr Zelensky, either through his death or fleeing the nation, and the installation of a puppet government. So the Russians did not invade with enough troops, and they invaded with a plan that was far too ambitious for the goals that they set out.
Well, the propaganda machine, of course, says that Russia's plan is going to plan. What is the strategy as you can see it, as best you can?
Now, I see the Russians are facing a strategic defeat because they're not able to dislodge the government in Kyiv. And as a result, all they can do is slowly grind away. And what's happening, of course, is because this is a modern war and because Ukraine is winning the information war, the West, the rest of the world, is seeing all of these horrific videos and photos coming out of Ukraine. And so gradually, Russia is losing any support that they might have had. And the West is coming together as no one ever expected, not only due to these images, not only due to Russian barbarity, but of course due to President Zelensky's amazing wartime leadership. And so, frankly, I don't see how Russia can win this, certainly not in the way they intended. And so that raises the question, how much longer does this need to go on? How many more lives, both military and civilian, need to be lost before finally we see a legitimate peace agreement arranged between the two warring sides?
Yeah, let's talk of peace. The bombardment continues. I know that there's been intense shelling near Kyiv overnight, and that seems to have been the worst 24 hours in the last 3 weeks. How do you see Ukraine perhaps giving Russia a ladder to climb down on, maybe a strategic defeat here? They give up Donbass.
And I think that's the question that people ought to be asking. You know, Ukraine has some 7 million people fit for military service. And because of the high morale and because of the nature of the attack, Russia has managed to alienate even the Russian-speaking ethnic Ukrainians, who are ethnic Russians. And as a result, every day that goes by, there's more and more Ukrainians under arms, and frankly, less Russians as they're being killed and captured and retreating back. So I anticipate, based on what I've seen, that we're likely to see a fairly significant Ukrainian counteroffensive northwest of Kyiv in that very marshy and wooded terrain that's very ideal for the use of dismounted infantry, closing in with these vehicles with their anti-tank weapons. And so perhaps once that battle is fought, the Russians are going to come to the realization that they just can't win this war.
Chuck, fascinating talking to you this morning. We really appreciate your time live there from Texas.
Thank you.